Okay, so it should be recording right now.
Yeah, it says live on mine.
Okay, great. Cool. Well, I guess who wants to start talking?
Well, I'm happy to start. The articles from this week are very fresh in my mind. And so I liked the article that the boundaries between parent and family education and family therapy. I think partly I liked it because it was written by all family life educators. And so, but I liked how their take on the fact that family life education can be for anyone. Um, anyone that is willing to participate because we can all benefit from education. I've benefited so much from all the classes that I've taken, all the family classes and everything. And so I think, and like my husband and I, we had a good relationship before. We had good relationships with our kids. But I think now we have a few more tools to use in our family, having had more education just because of my schooling. And so we haven't even done an official course, but now we're all writing lesson plans here. And so I'm sure that benefits all of our families. And so I think about that and I think, it would be good if everyone had a basic, family life education type course just to, how to treat people kindly. And I think things would improve a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think just with us doing the lesson plans, I think it's been a really good review for me. I mean, even though we've learned about all this stuff, I think it's been kind of nice to remember a lot of the things that we've learned in our previous classes. And I feel like I can, every time I write the lessons, I'm like, oh my gosh, I should probably be doing this in my own life because I feel like a terrible teacher because maybe half the things I don't do so well myself and maybe my own relationships or oh, for example, Naomi and I are writing a lesson about budgeting right now, and I feel like it's kind of more of a wake up call for me because I mean, we try to budget, but um, we're not always super good at it, and so I think it's just even just writing the lessons is just wow. I need to be doing more of these things a little bit better. And it's a great learning experience doing that. So yeah, I think we can all benefit from it. Family life education. I and just the classes that I've taken, like Naomi said, I think it's really been beneficial for me and my husband, and me as a mom, and just with various aspects of my life. It's been really really helpful. So.
I like the aspect of the education as well because it does give tools and those skills to other people to benefit from. And where therapy is like just getting down to the nitty gritty hard stuff, education can be used in every aspect of our lives. And I agree. There's so much that I've learned that I've been able to implement into my own life as well.
Well, and I think part of education is also like personal stories and, like where they've been or how they came out of a sticky situation or whatever. And I think that we can all learn from other people's stories and experiences. I love learning, from the apostles and prophets or like from my grandparents when they would tell us stories, like about their childhood and what they did and kind of learning and being educated. And so I think like with the lesson plans and stuff, even though we're teaching it, I've also learned from the participants as they've shared their personal experiences, and it's helped me learn and grow and become more educated on that aspect from them, even though we're the ones that are supposed to be teaching.
Yeah, there are some times where we would ask our participant to share a story or to share her thoughts, and I think like sometimes she'll share things and I'll be like, wow, I didn't even think about that. I mean, I have all these things written down, but I didn't even think about that. So yeah, I think that's great.
One of the things that I liked was when I was talking about the values in our books, and it talked about hope and optimism. Do you remember that part? Mm-hmm. And I thought, I love learning about hope and optimism because there's so much negativity in our world. And I feel like our gospel just brings that hope and that optimism And it encourages us to kind of become resilient to those things and to know that there's something greater to come, you know? So when I read that, that's what I thought about, was just the gospel that we have, that we've been blessed with, offers that hope to us.
Mm-hmm. I love the optimism of it, because I think that for us, at least for me, to want to change and to do better, there's got to be that hope. I don't usually do change well out of fear or out of, oh, if you don't change, this is going to happen. To me, it's got to be a positive. And I feel like family life education gives those positives of, hey, your relationship, you can, these are, I guess the word I think of in like the LDS world is, these are the blessings that can come from, applying these principles to your life. And I love the principles of hope and optimism, because they really do help us to be able to improve, to do better, and to be able to look forward to things instead of the drudgery,
right,
that's so often in life.
Right.
Yeah. I think it would be really hard to be a family life educator if you didn't have hope or optimism, because I would imagine that, if you like helping people, sometimes people, have a hard time helping themselves. And I think it would be really devastating, sometimes to see that. But if you didn't really have that optimism, I think it would be hard to teach, honestly. Because I imagine it wouldn't be an easy thing to do. So.
Well, and I think like Naomi said, like if a family life educator like doesn't have the optimism, the person's not going to want to change. If they don't see that good or that those positives, like themselves aren't going to want to change and make those changes, because what's the point if there's no like hope or optimism? So I think that it's important for a family life educator to have hope and be optimistic for the people that they're teaching, that they can see that there's these positives, there's these blessings, that if they will implement, these different practices, that their family will get better.
Well, I know that anytime I'm like in a class or something, I always, if my teacher's really negative, like I think I shared with you a couple times ago or last time about my voice lesson teacher, that lady that just was so negative with me, and I just had an awful experience. And so, yeah, I think the teacher, whether they're optimistic or not, or have a positive attitude, is such a big thing in influencing the learning of the people who you're teaching. So. No.
So what did you guys think about all of the ethics? I really love that list of ethics. It seems kind of overwhelming. But when Aaron and I were doing the ethics assignment, I realized that when I read that list, it opens my thoughts and my mind up more, because there are things in there that I don't really think of just because of my limited experiences in life. And when I read through those ethics, I realize, oh yeah, I remember my dad was the director of Health and Human Services in one of the counties here. It was Sacramento County. So CPS and elder care, all that stuff is under Health and Human Services. And I remember asking him once, like, hey, Dad, what do you guys classify as child abuse? Because I was just telling him about what I was hearing through the walls of my apartment. And I remember him saying, just because we don't agree with the way someone's parenting doesn't mean that it's appropriate for CPS to come in. And I think about with the ethics of, being a family life educator, just because we don't agree with someone's cultural beliefs, their family, the way they do things, it doesn't mean that we get to step in and say, hey, I think I have a better way. We can teach and all that, but those ethics remind me that we have to be respectful of the fact that people are making their own choices. And as long as it doesn't cross over into that level of abuse. But if we don't think that spanking is a good way to, raise our kids, but someone routinely spanks their child, unless it is leaving marks, or unless they're doing it with a different item or whatever it is. I'm trying to remember the laws here exactly. That it doesn't mean that we get to call CPS and say, hey, they're spanking their kid, because that's not just because we don't like it or whatever. And if you guys spank your kids, I'm not like, that's just the first example I heard of, or I thought of was. Anyway.
Well, and it reminded me of like when we've read in previous chapters, like that we have to like respect that diversity in those cultures. I live in Michigan, and people there really believe in spanking their children. We'll be walking, down the aisles at Sam's Club, and somebody's like swatting their kids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're doing this in the middle of a store. But like I have to take a step back and look at, okay, like their culture is different. They were raised differently. Michigan is a lot different than say Utah, where there's a lot of LDS people. Like I don't know, it's just very different culturally, and ethnics are very different out in Michigan. And so like I've had to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, like is the child like crying like that he's in so much pain or she's in so much pain, or do I just kind of walk away? Like it's just been really, really hard to kind of distinguish between that. But like I've had to take like the diversity and the different cultures into consideration when I watch those situations play out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's hard. I live in Idaho, so I don't know if I probably wouldn't see that quite as much as you would, but I do sometimes see like at the grocery store, like, oh my gosh, that's, I would never do that to my kid. But even my neighbors sometimes are a little bit more harsh with their kids, but that's just kind of the way they do things, and you just got to respect that. And I think learning to do that, like around, with the people around you will help you as a family life educator when you have to deal with stuff like that.
Well, and I, as a mom, and you guys might feel this way too, all of us, if you haven't had the experience yet, all of us will have parenting experiences we're not proud of, and that we don't really want our parenting life to be, defined by. It's a lot easier for me now. My youngest is 8. It's super easy not to spank one because, if my teenage boys get spanked, it's because it's playfulness and they're running around hitting each other on the rear end. It's different than, So I think when we're teaching people and we are observing people, that we have to remember, we're all at different, spots. But those ethics really reminded me, it's important to respect those cultural differences, even if we don't support them per se. We have to say, okay, where is that line between the safety of the child and the culture that they're coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. That's a big, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I just was going to say, being cautious of that fine line where it's their culture and then where it crosses over into abuse, and just being cautious of that, but allowing them to parent. I feel like we live in a society that just wants to tell everybody how to parent. Mm-hmm. Their way is the right way and everybody else's is the wrong way. And that's just not the case. Everybody parents different. Every kid is different. So I might have to discipline one of my children a different way than I discipline the other 3. And so I think just letting people parent, but being cautious of that fine line.
I really like, I'll be fast. I really like what you said about that, because sometimes I know, like, so my husband, he's the youngest in his family, and so all of his siblings are, they're married and they have way more kids than we do. Don't touch that. Sometimes, so if I may be having a hard time with my little 2-year-old here, they'll all be coming in, and all the sister-in-laws and everybody, they'll be coming in and they'll be giving me advice, and they'll be telling me, oh, you need to do this way, you need to do it that way. And I'm like, okay, but yeah, I like what you said. It's just, it may have worked for them, but you got to find what works for your kid. I guess I just like what you said there. So, hold on, it's okay.
Did any of the other ethics stand out to you guys, other than like the cultural differences
Well, in the children's section, like just being aware of the children and what they're going through, and I don't have it pulled up, and so I don't really remember, but there is that section that's all about the children and making sure that they are safe and protected. And so, I mean, it goes along kind of with what we've been talking about. If it's just discipline and that's how their parents choose to discipline, that's one thing. But if the children's safety is really like if they're in trouble, then we need to be aware of that to help them.
I actually had an experience recently. One of the boys that I taught in primary last year and 2 years ago came up to me, and he was just struggling, and I said, "What's going on?" And he, like, it was like floodgates just opened, and he told me about some abuse that was happening in his home, and that his dad was chasing him with a belt and threatening him and stuff. And like, even though like I'm not like a certified family life educator, like I felt like I had to do my part, like with doing these, like taking these classes, and like I felt like I had to keep him safe and do what I needed to do to take, his safety into my hands, if he wasn't getting that at home, and if he's being whipped with a belt and threatened that his dad is going to kill him, like, because in the Family 150, the introductory course, like we had to sign that ethics paper. And even though like I'm not certified, like I was like, I can't allow him, to go on in a situation where he feels threatened and he's being, whipped and hit. And so I reported it, and because I prayed about it, and I felt like that's what I needed to do. And like, I just feel like it's very important that these kids know that they have a safe place, and that they know that that they can like confide in me or other adults, and know that we're going to take their safety as, number one, instead of just saying, oh, whatever, you were probably being a brat or whatever. Like, nobody deserves to be whipped with a belt or threatened that they're going to be killed. So I liked that children's section that will keep the kids safe, and that nonviolent actions are better.
Yeah, that is a great example of, that whole, crossing the line type of thing, where you go, oh, wait a minute, this isn't just someone's different beliefs. This is putting a child in danger.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so I don't want to like keep saying does anyone else have something they really wanted to bring up from their notes?
I really liked the I think it was the very first principle that was mentioned. Let me see, what was it? It was being aware of just the impact we have on families and just the people we teach. I guess that really struck me, because you really do have such a huge influence on the people that you teach. I mean, they look up to you as, professionals and people with knowledge, and we really need to, just be respectful and set a good example to them, and make sure that we teach, appropriate material that is correct. And so I just thought that was interesting, that, we really do have great influence over the people that we're teaching in family life education.
That's a good, the person that we're going to be teaching next, he told us, he's like, if you guys say something and you're like, you just need to do this, he's like, I'll do it. And I was like, oh, you're putting a lot of faith in us. And so it's like, we've got to be really careful what we say. We can't just say something nonchalantly, because some people will take and say, oh, well, my family life educator said I need to do this, and they'll do it. So I like it. We need to really be aware of, the influence we can have on those people around us, or the people that we're teaching.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I forgot that he'd said that. Yeah. Like, okay.
Like, we're not experts.
Not yet. Yeah, hopefully later.
I didn't tell him that. And I was like, okay.
I think she's getting restless.
So I have one more thing, and it's from the textbook. I really liked how it talks about, our objectives require careful thinking, but they allow us to really assess and create more effective programs. And I know that it wouldn't be like economically a very savvy thing to do for a family life educator to have these individual courses, but I think it's been a neat opportunity for us to be able to create these lessons just for one person and for their needs. And I just think, wow, how much more effective these lessons are because they are just for people that we're teaching, you know, the things they've told us that they are most interested in or concerned about. And so I think about that. If any of us really go on to family life education, to really use surveys, to really take into consideration what the people we're teaching, what their main concerns are, because it can be so effective when we're presenting information that's that they really want to hear.
And I think that like when it's what they need, they receive it better. I think that like our girl that we taught, she like there were tears, like she thanked us several times, like, thank you so much for like creating these and teaching me exactly what I needed to hear and things that will help benefit my life and my marriage and my relationship. And so like I think that she received that better because it was tailored to her needs, and instead of us just throwing things together that she may have not needed to hear, you know, we tailored it to her. And so she was really receptive, really like, I'm going to go home and do this. We need to have a talk, like, you know. And so I think that it is important to tailor those to, you know, who we are teaching.
I was thinking something and I just lost my thought. That's why I was quiet, because I was like, I don't remember what I was going to say. Give me a second, so it will come back.
That happens to me all the time.
Drives me crazy because I'm like, there was something there. No, I ran into this this girl that had taken this class previously, and she'd done the workshop, and she had gone to the library and taught in the workshop setting. And I really started feeling grateful for this choice because I love that we can gear it to one specific person instead of a group of people that might be just random people. Our lesson plans can be geared to that specific person, specific needs, like Naomi said. And I really I've loved doing this family relations course.
Yeah, it's been more fulfilling than I thought it would be. It's been really fun when we actually get to teach the lessons, and it has been more rewarding than I realized it was going to be.
I kind of enjoy putting just using all the information that we have gained over the last few years or however long, and creating these lessons. I think it's really cool that we can do that. I think it's very appropriate to have this class at the very end where we can just take everything and use what we've learned to help other people. So.
So I have one last thing, or no, go for it.
No, I'm just sorry. I feel bad that
no, go.
Kind of.
Yeah.
No, you're good. I was just laughing. I'm sorry.
So the one thing in the let's see, it's the professional ethics and outreach article. It talked about, it gave that little example at the beginning of a woman trying to decide whether or not to take a job where she really didn't have the training per se, and no one else there did either. And, the ethical dilemma of, do you take this position that you don't really have the experience for? And I thought, as we look, so I don't know if any of us are looking for actual jobs or if we're just getting our degrees, but, I think about it and I think, okay, so if I go into a profession, I need to make sure that I have the skills and experiences so I can give the services that are needed to the best of my ability and to what they really should have. If I'm working with children, I don't want to just go get the job because it's a job that I can get. I want to get a job that I am doing right by those people, that it's an ethical choice on my part. And that if I don't have the training, I go and I get the training. I'm planning on being a stay-at-home mom still, but I just was thinking about that.
Yeah, I understand. I'm kind of the same way too. Because I've been a stay-at-home mom through the whole time I've been in school, and so I kind of just want to take a break and just be a mom for a while. But yeah, I think it's really important to be able to have those types of skills. It kind of reminds me of my husband. Actually, he's been trying to find another job. He does not like his job, and so he just graduated from BYU Idaho just last summer, and so he's been trying to find a better job. Right now, he's just kind of working a dead end job, but he's been applying for all these different jobs that are kind of like all over the place. He has kind of a broad degree, and so he applies for all different kinds of jobs, and I think he got desperate and he applied for a job that he's kind of qualified for, but not really. It's he has a degree in agriculture business, and then he has a minor in economics, and he applied for this financial representative job, and that's kind of in his field, but not really. And so, but he got an interview for it, so we'll see how it goes. But he's just not sure because he's like, well, I don't know if I'm really qualified. I don't really know how to do it, but I'm sure I could figure it out. And I don't know. So yeah, you really want to, you really, because right now he's just trying to find any job he can. Like he doesn't even care right now. But I think it's so important to be able to not look at it as just getting a job. I mean, you definitely want to find a job that you can do. That you know what I mean. That where you can actually help people that you know how to do. So.
All right. Does anyone have anything else, or are we wrapping up?
Well, it's been about half an hour, so I mean, if we want to wrap it up, we can.
I think I'm good.
Yeah. All right.
All right. You want to stop the recording, Erin?
Yeah, I'll stop it right now.